It is time to start using some artificial intelligence.
Welcome to the Retire with Peace podcast, the podcast where we help you create a fulfilling and stress-free retirement. Each week, we bring you expert advice, practical tips, and inspiring stories to help you plan and live your best retirement life. Whether you're nearing retirement or already enjoying your golden years, this podcast is here to support you every step of the way. Let's embark on this journey together and discover how to retire with peace.
Welcome back to the Retire with Peace podcast. As always, I'm your host, Dave Zaegel. A few episodes ago, back in episode 199, we talked about the fact that AI is here. Like it or not, agree with it, disagree, doesn't matter. It's here. We can choose to use it or not. And I recommend we start learning it. We don't have to become super experts on it, but it's time to start learning it and understanding how it can help us. And today I want to talk about some specific ways we can use these artificial intelligence tools to our benefit without doing anything crazy. First off, there's a couple of different levels of how you can use them and what different levels of access you have. A lot of them have a free version. In fact, I think all of them still have a free version. And then you can have a paid version, which not only gets you a little bit higher level of an artificial intelligence model, but also comes with some privacy help. And that's a big difference in what we're going to talk about here. Because really, for everything we're going to discuss, the free version is just fine, except for the fact that it can use your data to train future models. Now, I want to clear up a misconception about a lot of what you hear with artificial intelligence. There is a perception out there that if you put any information into these artificial intelligence models, and to be specific, we're talking about things like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Grok, all these models. There's a perception that if you put anything out there, the artificial intelligence will just soak up that information like a sponge, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's not really how it works. And in fact, if you are on paid versions and if you're on business versions, you almost certainly have protection. But even if you're on paid versions, you generally have a setting where you can click to turn off training on your data. Because we have to understand that these models are trained on data at a certain point in time. And if they have to go out to the internet, perhaps to research new data, they're doing that separately. So to build these models, they take all sorts of information, train the models, and that is that model's knowledge at that point in time. So if there's something that more recent has happened, it's going to have to go out and search for that and take in that information and put some thoughts together around that. For example, we do a lot of tax planning. So if I'm asking it a question on tax laws to confirm something, it knows the tax law as of a certain date. So if there's something new, it has to go out and find that and bring that information in to understand how it all fits. So it's not that something's out there just grabbing information constantly and updating the models. That's not how that works. But even for you individually, if you are putting something in there, we want to make sure that it's not training on your data. And therefore, it's probably worth getting some subscription or checking the settings to see if there's somewhere to turn that off. So I wanted to deal with that first before we get into what to do with it, because there are ways to say, no, don't take my data. Don't take that and use it for any training. And you can be fine. They have security protocols in place. They get different audits for transmitting data. We're not going to go into all that, but just understand there are ways to turn off them using any of your data. And I think that's helpful. And I think it's actually worth paying a little bit for on a monthly basis to get access to these powerful tools without them absorbing or otherwise using any data that you put in there. So with that security piece out of the way, let's discuss what somebody who really, this is for anybody. We're going to address this more for a lot of retirees that are still not using artificial intelligence, but this really goes for anyone in terms of how you can easily use these tools for your benefit in many different areas. The one specific example that I want to use is keeping track of information when you are needing to deal with anybody in a, call it a professional setting. So things for your doctor, your dentist, your accountant, your financial planner, your lawyer, heck, even a plumber or an electrician. One of the things that can be really helpful is to have a place to summarize what has been going on in your life. Let's use the doctor for an example. Oftentimes, maybe we go to a doctor, let's say it's every 6 months, every 3 months, every year, doesn't matter the timing. Dentists, you're supposed to go every 6 months. We can use them as an example too. A lot of times we might go there and they'll ask, have we had this issue? Have we had that issue? Have we, they'll go down this list of, have you been okay since we last saw you? It's hard to remember everything that has happened during that time. But perhaps if you started a chat or a project in one of these tools, which is really easy to do, by the way, even if you're not on ChatGPT or Claude, you can probably use Gemini. Any of these will work. If you just start either a project or a chat and you just keep a running history and you say, I had this illness during the second week of January. And then maybe you get into March and you're like, my shoulder was bothering me for weeks and I don't know what's going on. And maybe it was fine. Then maybe that comes back in May and starts bothering you again. It can be hard to remember the timing and severity and exactly how you were feeling it and thinking and addressing the situation during that time. If you're trying to recall all of that while you're sitting in a doctor's office or in a dentist's chair or in a lawyer's conference room, whatever the situation is, it can be really hard to remember exactly how you were feeling and thinking and what the situation and what the context was. And a lot of people will say, well, I can just write it down on a notepad, and absolutely can. Yes, that is fine. What this artificial intelligence can actually help even further than that is taking that and summarizing that into something that is easily usable. So if you're keeping a diary on all these things, that's awesome. It's a little bit more challenging to read through, especially if it's a long diary, a long list. It can be challenging to kind of read through and get a quick and easy understanding of everything that's going on versus these artificial intelligence tools. If you're putting that information in there, it can go really fast. It can boom, summarize and say, hey, this seems to be happening. And it might even be able to recommend something for you and say, hey, you said your shoulder was hurting and it was hurting in this spot and you were having trouble moving in this direction. It'll tell you, hey, I'm not a doctor, but it sounds like this could be what it is. Maybe check with the doctor on that. And same thing with a lawyer or somebody like that. You might say, hey, here's what we're trying to do. And it can summarize it and say, it'll tell you, you still need to deal with the professional because that's the case. You still need to deal with a human that knows what they're doing. But it can give you some good thoughts and ask some good questions along the way. So use these helpful tools to essentially create a history, a running history of what you might have going on, either medically, legally, financially. Like I said, stuff with your house. Maybe there's some plumbing issues that you're like, hey, this happens in the basement when it rains too much, or this pipe seems to do this, whatever. Just keep that history. So that way you're not going, I forgot what date this was or what time frame this was or when exactly this happened. I think I know it, but I can't remember it. Use these tools. Let them retain that history and gain that understanding. So then when you go work with a human professional who really knows what they're doing, you also have all this information ready for them. They will love it. They will be able to do much more with it. Imagine going to your doctor and they're going to ask you a list of questions and you got something. You can print this out. You can print it out and say, here's what I got going on. Here's what I have no problem with. You can just have all this information ready there for them versus them having to go through and ask a million questions and try to hunt and search for the answer and all this stuff. If it's already ready for them and you can say, oh, well, this is how I've been feeling the last 6 months. Great. We just saved a whole lot of time and effort and discovery, and now we can address the issue and move forward. So that is my recommendation. Make sure that these AI tools aren't using your data to train on, because you probably don't want that. And it might be worth paying to get that to where you can turn that setting off. But otherwise, use these tools to your advantage across many areas of your life. Keep this running history that's going to help you tremendously in the long term anytime you're trying to figure out something that you need to solve.